She used to respond. My guest, Ann Hince, is someone who normally responds to everything. She was always reactionary to everything that's going on in her life, and felt she has to say something, do something, and then get a reaction. But then she recognized something. It was exhausting her because she was beginning to create an unhealthy life for herself, and she didn't feel safe that way. In doing so, she recognized that she had to do something. She was not going to sit around and let everything in her environment and people that she run into to influence her so much. So she started wondering about this reactionary mode of her life where she's constantly getting involved with things that don't serve her, that don't help her. And it wasn't safe. And she was exhausted. So she tapped into getting help. And of course, I'm all about getting help. Because when you get help, it gives you a clue into what is really going on in your life. You get to become present. And then you begin to avail yourself of the lesson. So my guest will be speaking about what she learned, how that freed her, and she wants the rest of the world to know. And of course, we're all about helping our brothers and sisters to become the best version that we can possibly be. Once again, let me introduce myself. My name is Sroda Aglago. I'm the founder and host of the podcast Love, Forgive, Live. If you want to write to me, you may do so at LUV. Yes, my guess is on now. LUV. Hello, Anne. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, good. I can hear you too. So that's good. I'm glad we can all hear each other. I was just talking about you a little bit. I don't know if you heard it. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. And the good thing is I came on 10 minutes before to have all that figured out because the table was turned one way. And then I realized that we had a glare issues. So I had to turn the table around. And then the camera wasn't coming on. I was like, oh no. So then I had to go and call my guy. And he comes and then he's like, okay, you have to stream. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I kept pressing the button. It didn't even work. So we had to figure all that 10 minutes before you came on. So how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
I'm great. So I did introduce you a little bit, but please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ann Hince. I don't know what you said. Have you
I said, well, I'll say it again. What I said is, your name is Ann Hince, and you started recognizing something about yourself, that you were reactionary to everything in your environment. And everyone that comes at you or you hear something, you're just like, oh my goodness, I got to react to that. And it was exhausting for you. You were tired of being tired of reacting to everything. Then you decided to seek help, figure out what is going on, how to get into a place where you're not reacting to everything around you or everyone around you, everything you hear. So that's what I described, and I said, and then you tap into something that helped you, and that's where.
Okay, yes. That is all true. And a lot of it stemmed from childhood. I had two alcoholic parents. And when I was 19, I walked into the bedroom one morning and found my mother dead on the bathroom floor. So that was a big trauma that I didn't really deal with. I just suppressed it because I didn't know what else to do.
Of course.
So that's all why I was so reactionary and
yes.
negative. Yes. My mind would criticize me and it would judge other people, and I so didn't want that to continue.
Yes,
so,
of course.
Yeah. So it was one day I went to a doctor's appointment. I was in my late 30s. I had two young boys at home, and the doctor recognized that I was more stressed than I should be in that situation.
Oh.
So he asked me what my stress level was on a 0 through 10, and it was an 8. And then he asked me why. And I knew straight away, because the tears from finding my mother 2 decades now, two decades earlier, was still just under the surface.
Oh, my.
So he used this technique with me. It's called EFT, which is short for Emotional Freedom Technique, which is what it provides.
Yes.
He used it with me for about 15 minutes, and I walked away from the appointment being able to tell a story in my mind about finding my mom, and the tears were no longer there.
Oh, my. First visit.
First visit.
Oh, my goodness.
Physician. But it's a technique that's available. The guy who developed it, his name is Gary Craig, and he gave it away for free.
Wow.
So anyone can learn how to do it. And so I went home, and I have an engineering background. I was a software engineer. I like to know that things work. So I wanted to know it wasn't just a fluke.
Yes.
Like a one-time thing. So I learned how to do it, and I had a cat at home, a 17-year-old cat that needed to have daily saline shots. And I hate injections.
Oh, my.
So the first time I gave him a shot, my hand was shaking so much that I was so fearful of doing it. And so I knew I wasn't going to be able to do this every day. So I thought, well, this is a great test case. Right? It's very different from the story of my mother, but I tapped. It's also called tapping. I tapped about my hand shaking, about my fear of hurting my cat, about my fear of injections, and about my history around injections, because I've lived all over the world, so I had lots of injections growing up.
Yes.
And the next day, when I put the needle in, it just slid right in, and my hand was totally peaceful.
Oh, love that.
Yeah, so I knew at that point, this is deceptively powerful.
Yes.
It doesn't look like much is happening, but I recognize, okay, it's really making a significant difference on the inside. So that's when I started using it. I started using it every day. I started noticing when I was reacting to something, and I would tap. But I wanted more because I could tell it was making a difference. I could feel my mind was becoming more peaceful.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
what I did is I wrote down every emotional memory that I could remember from childhood.
I love that.
So I tapped for about an hour and a half each night, and I went through all those memories, and I found my mind becoming quiet. And at one point, I remember opening the kitchen door and feeling like I was living in a different reality because my mind was not talking to me the way it used to talk to me. And that's when I realized that the voices, the words that I had been using in my head, that I criticized myself with or judged other people, were my dad's words that I had programmed into myself in childhood. Yes. And I just replayed, my mind just replayed them over and over again. But they actually disappeared. Wow. It can happen. I know.
I love it because
at my age, I think it can happen.
It does. And I think with my line of work, being a therapist and a life coach and a counselor, when you're dealing with trauma and clients come and then you tell them it's possible to move past this, they really look at you like you're growing horns in your face because they think, serious, do you know how long I've been living with this? What do you mean I can have a normal life? And I'm like, yes, you can grow past this. And they're looking at me like, no. And thank you for sharing this because it is possible. It's just that sliver of hope, that grain of hope that it is possible to exist without functioning that way. And a lot of people will say, but this is the way I am. And I'm like, no, you were not born this way.
Right. It's the way you are right now, but it can change.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, please go on. I want to hear more.
Believing that is a really important thing. And that's why checking it out with a cat made me realize, things can change. So I kept going. Because it feels really good to release old stored tension. So I wanted more of it. So I believe what EFT is doing, it's opening up the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And as it does that, you become aware at a deeper level. So I
Yes.
started to become aware of how I felt, because before that, when someone asked me, how are you feeling today, Anne? I would always say, I'm fine. How are you? Right? I would never actually be aware
Yes.
of how I really felt. So I started to become aware of the emotions. But then underneath every emotion is a set of physical sensations. And we get dissociated from this in childhood. We start using the word like frustrated, rather than recognizing when we're feeling frustrated, we actually feel tension in our body.
Yes.
For me, it's more in the solar plexus and the stomach area, but some people it's in the jaw or the shoulders.
Yes.
So
it gets all tense and tight, and then that's where the majority will get the muscle spasm, the neck locking up, and and of course the back solar plexus gets so tight some people can't even move.
Yeah. And what we don't realize is that the emotions are stored in our physical body, and those feelings, those physical sensations are the tension that we're holding around those emotions and those memories and the things that are happening now that are stressing us out.
Yes.
And so I started focusing on those physical sensations and actually working to let them go. And I was in a group at the time, and the guy said, you don't have to meditate, or it's all about feeling your feelings. And he would say this every week, but I didn't know what he meant. And I don't know why I never asked him to explain that in detail, but I didn't. But one day I actually decided, okay, I know I can feel these physical sensations, so let me try and feel them. And what does that mean? So I would try and focus my attention on the tension inside.
Yes.
So I would recognize when I was thinking a thought that was emotional. I would notice where those physical sensations were, and focus my attention on them. But they were so good at squirming away because I'd suppressed them for so long. That's what they expected. They expected to move. So I recognized I had to actually hold myself like a statue. I actually had to stop breathing. I didn't take a deep breath. I felt the feelings, and as I was feeling them, I would stop right there, because then I could focus on them. Yes. And I would just keep that focus on them, because that's what we were doing with tapping on the outside.
Yes.
Focusing on the emotion, and when we fully accept it, it releases. So the same thing at this level, when I could fully feel those physical sensations, they would release.
Whoa.
And then I would do it again for the same thought. Feel it again, see if it has shifted, notice where it was, feel it, and it would release. And I'd do it over and over with the same thought, and the tension would release, and then the thought is free.
Yes.
It's kind of weird to say that, but recognize that that's true. If I got to the point with tapping, and I don't suggest anyone does this anywhere near the beginning of this journey, but I got to the place where I could say, I hate myself, and I tapped about I hate myself for probably, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours over a period of days, and it totally freed it up. Right now it's just words. I hate myself, I can say it doesn't bring anything up inside of me. And so there's no power in that anymore, and it just releases, and it's so nice.
Oh, my heart I know I'm smiling and it's not me, but I recognize that, because when I watch clients get that, I call it the light bulb moment. When that epiphany happens, there's nothing like it. Nothing. If you describe it to people and they're like, nothing, nah. And some of them will say, no, what did you take to get that? No, you have access to this. It's free. It's in you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started working with this, like this felt like a deeper level, and I started using this all the time. And instead of tapping in the evenings, I would now lie on the sofa, and I would bring some emotional thing to mind. Now, at this point, I'd worked through most of my childhood issues, so I started working on more collective traumas, like 9/11 or the Loma Prieta earthquake that I was in.
Yes.
Just bring those memories to mind, feel all the emotions inside of me, the physical sensations, let them go. Bring it to mind again, feel it, let it go. over and over until there was freedom there to let that stored tension have released out of my body. And at some point during this process, I realized that I could actually keep my awareness inside my body after the tension had gone, which is a really weird thing to say and to experience. I didn't know what was happening. The closest I could get to explain what that means is, imagine you have a toothache or a stomach ache. Once it's gone, you can't pinpoint it anymore because it's gone. But I could actually keep my awareness back inside where it was.
Yes.
And so I started working with this deeper level now inside the body. And it was kind of the same thing. I would move my awareness around, find a place of tension, hold my attention on it. It would dissipate. I'd come back, do it again. The next layer would dissipate and do it over and over again until the tension had released. So it's doing the same thing. It's just a deeper level of awareness.
Whoa.
And then I got to the point where I could actually put my awareness inside my head, which again sounds strange. But just telling my story.
Please, it's your story. Own it, sell it, keep it, and enjoy it. But above all, you're ready to share with the world. And we are open to listening. And I am open to that because this journey that we are on is that powerful. It's that powerful because when it's happening, you come to a place of understanding that you're not even sure if this is real, if you're actually being present, but it is happening. And when it happens and you become fully aware of what is happening, even though you don't know how it's happening or what, and for lack of a better words, the mechanics of how it's working. You being an engineer, you understand. The mechanics of that is happening. It can't fully be explained, but it can be explained somehow. It may not do justice to what you may be trying to experience, and explaining will be different, but it's happening.
Absolutely. I did know it was happening.
Yes.
I've not heard anyone else explain it before, which is why I'm here.
Yes.
So I would move my awareness around inside. I had so much tension inside my head. It was unbelievable to actually put my awareness in there and recognize that I had been living with that tension inside my head for all these decades. So then I just did the same thing, just a little bit at a time. I'd focus on the tension.
Yes.
It would dissipate. Focus on it again. The next level would dissipate.
Yes.
And after a while, I actually started to feel and hear something release on the inside, and it sounded like old fabric ripping. And I recognized, because I did some research, I realized, okay, it's the connective tissue or the fascia releasing a bond that would have been holding it tight.
Yes.
And I was kind of scared at that point. Am I hurting myself? I don't know, but I was just releasing tension, so I knew it couldn't hurt me. So I kept going, and then I felt more and more and more release, and my neck would start cracking. As it released more tension, it needed to readjust itself on its own. And then just this last year, I had some new x-rays taken just for orthodontic work, which a long time.
Yeah.
And I had one from 2013. So to see the difference in the x-rays and actually see how the bones have shifted, right? My eye sockets, the bones in the eye sockets have aligned. My jaw, which was way off to the side, is much more centered. And I have scoliosis, so my neck has straightened significantly since I started doing this work. And as a 55-year-old, I found out a week or so ago that I have grown half an inch. So
wait, no. I'm sorry. Please say that again. Wait, what? What? No, please. I know I'm sounding like an idiot right now, but that's okay. I'll be honest with you about this. Please say that again.
I have grown half an inch.
What? Half an inch?
I measured myself. Yes. Now, of course, when you get to this age, you don't measure yourself very often. But, I can't remember the last time I was measured, probably 10 years ago.
Wow.
But since then, yes, I have grown half an inch because I feel my neck straightening. I feel the release of tension. and almost this force that's pulling my neck straight.
Yes.
So yeah, I have grown, which is kind of fun.
Okay, I'm gonna pick up my lower jaw off the floor and get it back up. You went in seeking help for the stressors that were managing you. It had you and was managing you. You were not managing the stress. You were not compartmentalizing what was happening to figure out how to survive or how to live. You recognized that the pain of the situation was dragging you down, festering into everything that was going on around you. And you couldn't get relief, believing you were going to heal yourself and stop the cycle, and look at what you ended up gaining, receiving, learning, and the joy. I see the joy in your face. I see the gifts this gave you. You got an inch tall, half an inch taller. Your stresses, your physical changes started happening in the sense of your jaws aligning the right way. Things being released, and you thought, well, I'm breaking bones, right? Something is breaking. And you made me go check it out. Now, did you ever go to your chiropractor and ask them to explain it to you?
No, I've not heard anyone else talk about what's happening, but I know probably more than they do, right? Because I can feel, right, as the more tension you release, then there will be a readjustment as enough tension has released.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah, I know it's a release of stress deep inside the body, or a release of dis-ease.
Yes. Yes,
right?
the
And
dis-ease.
it started at the outer level of the emotions, but it's all connected. I believe it's all been working on the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
I've just got to a depth now where I can feel it happen. I know exactly where it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I do feel lighter. I am more joyous, right? Because
I see the smile.
I released the burden that I felt like I was carrying for those, first 30 odd years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel lighter, right? There's a lightness to my step. It's easier to laugh. It's just, it's all a progression, and there's so much more to life.
Yes.
I realized then.
Yes.
Because I recognize at this point, I know that phrase, as within, so without.
Yes.
Absolutely true. So
that
the more
powerful.
I know myself on the inside, the more I recognize what is happening on the outside.
Yes. Yes. And it's powerful because once you become release of the hold, of the bondage, that's what I call it, of the bondage, of the imprisonment. Because here's how I sometimes describe it in session with my clients, and I say this for them to understand what is really going on with their body and with every fiber of their being. That trauma or the stressors creates a prison that attaches you to what happened. And you put yourself in this prison and nurse that trauma. And you keep revisiting it as a way of nurturing the trauma. And sometimes people almost honor the trauma because they begin to feel guilty that if they're not feeling that way, then that means they are not feeling the presence of that person anymore. They are not feeling the love they had for that person anymore. But here's the thing. When you create that prison that keeps you bondage and start debilitating you, destroying your body and everything around you, when you do that, it chips away at your life a little bit at a time. But the fact of the matter is, because you've imprisoned yourself to the trauma and revisiting it and re-traumatizing yourself and re-injuring yourself every single time, you begin to get stuck in that loop. And all you see is your prison walls. And until you literally see the crack through the door and say, oh, wait, there's a crack in this door? I never saw it. Let me try and walk towards it. It begins to unfold and the walls crumble. They begin to fall slowly. And that's what you're describing. And when it started falling, you're like, wait, there's something like this? But share with me so that my audience could understand, especially those who are probably struggling right now with trauma. Those who are probably in the beginning of trauma, that's the other part. In the beginning of their trauma, where they're watching everything fall apart, watching everything disintegrate. And they're trying to grab something through that as a sense of resemblance of something that will make them feel comfortable, and it's not happening. Now, describe to them how they can recognize the prison they're beginning to build.
It's so familiar, right? That's our familiar. We want to go back to what feels safe and comfortable. And so even recognizing that,
yes,
right? Recognizing, because we've attracted everything that is around us now.
Yes.
And to change that in our future, we have to change our now.
Yes.
So that it's really good to work with a small trauma to begin with, right? With me, it was my cat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And to recognize that the freedom is on the other side.
Yes.
Right? To experience it. And then, sometimes we think the emotions are going to annihilate us, and we don't think we're actually going to be able to get out of this prison.
Yes.
That's why having a small success will allow you to recognize there's freedom there, and you will survive on the other side.
Yes.
It will feel different.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Yes.
You will actually feel better.
Yes.
So yeah, but the words you're using, right? The prison, we imprison ourselves, and we re-traumatize ourselves over and over. I know now that is the connective tissue. We're actually holding that in our physical bodies.
Yes.
And it is a dis-ease inside of us. And if we keep going back to it and feeding it over and over again, we are building that dis-ease inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes looking at it closely.
Yes.
Opening up the wound.
Yes.
And cleaning out all the debris in there.
Yes.
In order to fully heal it. So yes, there's that physical. You might just think that you're working on a trauma.
Yeah.
You might just think it's just in your mind, but no, it's in your physical body too.
Yes.
And it's absolutely worth letting it go to get to the other side. It's just stored inside of you, right? Those memories and traumas, they don't exist anywhere else. It's just inside of us.
Yes.
And so we can let it go and move beyond it.
Yes, and that's what I feel. Individuals that don't recognize this because they're going through it begin to create a disconnect with their reality. That reality of this is happening to me. And even though I'm saying that this feels safe, what I am doing, the re-injuring myself, is feeling safe. The truth of the matter is, it's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of protection and a false sense of safety that we believe we created. Because in actual fact, it's that imprisonment we are making stronger. We are making that stronger, and then it becomes the thing that we believe makes us whole, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I always wanted to be safe. That was my goal. Was
yes.
Each day, it's like, oh, how can I stay safe? And I didn't want to leave the house because I wasn't sure I would come back again. So, but yes, that's imprisoning me, right? Using my mind. So if it's okay, let me share a story from prior to COVID.
Please.
And this kind of brings some of that.
Excuse me as I drink some water.
So I had a group and we would meet once a week. And at the beginning of the group, everyone sit in a semicircle and close their eyes. And I would play a series of chimes, just a series of chakra chimes. And then we would open our eyes and everyone would share their experience. And there was a spectrum of experience. So there were people there who would only hear the chimes with their ears. And that's where I used to be, just with the ears. And then there were other people who would hear them with their ears, but also feel some of the sound vibrations in different parts of their body. And then on the other end of the spectrum, which is where I am now, is we could feel those sound vibrations deep inside our body. And it feels really good. So to me, there's like a spectrum of awareness. When we're blocking ourselves in, we're only seeing or only experiencing a small part of life.
Yes.
But once we let go of that cage that we're holding ourselves in, once we let go of that tension in our bodies, which is what we're doing, then we're much softer and we can actually experience things on a much deeper level.
Yes.
And then there's so much more to life, right? If someone is hearing a conversation or listening to music, and they only hear the words or some of the notes, right? That's not a lot to life. That's cutting yourself off. But if someone's hearing a conversation or music and they're feeling all the other aspects of it, right? They're feeling the person who's talking, they're feeling the sound vibrations, excuse me, they can tell whether the person's telling the truth or not, depending on how deeply they're breathing into their body, or they're feeling the music on all these other levels. There's so much more to life there. So why not head that direction, right? So that we can start to all enjoy life at a deeper and deeper level.
Oh my goodness. I love this. This makes me excited because I see this as hope. Hope for children. Hope for the adult life that we believe we are living, but it's actually the pains and the difficulties that the little girl and the little boy took on that's been manifested into adulthood. And then we think we are living our adult life. But we are really not. We are living the dialogue, the narratives of the child. And what they've been through is what is playing out. And we walk into relationships believing we are full-grown adults living adult lives. And then together, based on each other's dysfunction that they took on. I don't know anyone in this world that has ever claimed they never experienced anything traumatic in their lives. From the moment they were born, that they never, every single being that ever comes through this physical world of ours, this earth plane, has had some form of trauma. Because, and I was talking about trauma is not something like an impact, a physical impact, or a deep verbal attack. It's anything that the child or the being interprets as trauma is trauma. Because the way I described it, I was like somebody who's walks down the street and gets harmed by a car and it's in a terrible accident. And then somebody goes to school and someone says something mean to them. And the way the crowd reacted traumatized that child. And they store that into the body. And now when you tell them, let's go to the market, and fear and dread comes up for that individual. And everybody's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And the person is trying to verbalize, even though they don't have access to language. Because usually when trauma has happened, when it's happening, or when people are having that PTSD moment, they're not able to differentiate whether it's really happening. The brain cannot fully recognize this is not really happening, it's just a memory, but your body and everything feels it physically and reacts as though how it did then. So when everyone comes into this world believing, oh, they're going to be safe, and something from other people's point of view, they will say it's just a little thing. And you experience what you've experienced, you hear that, you're like, that's it? You were wearing a pant that didn't fit well, and a crowd of people were laughing in the room? That's it? That's your trauma? That's why you're having difficulty breathing? And in your head, you're like, I would wish I would have that problem and not the one I'm dealing with. But it doesn't matter, because it's that individual's interpretation of the event that happened that created the language of trauma to them, where they're not able to access the frontal lobe, where reasoning, understanding, comprehension, and making sound judgment. When that part of the brain is shut down and the fight and flight, animalistic, takes place, language is shut off. It is shut off, they're not able to express it. And the same thing happens as an adult. Because guess what? The child didn't have language. They didn't even know what was happening. And it frightened them and shocked them into this place. And they start building that prison and building, thinking, yeah, I need to build this. No, it's my protection. Let me control everything. Let me put everything around. Let me put everything around. And then in creating so, they don't realize they're chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping. So my question to you is this. How would you communicate this to children? Even though most of our audience are not children, they're adult. But how would you communicate to children? Because I'm sure right now a mother, a father, a parent, grandparents are all listening right now. What would you tell them, knowing what you know right now, about how to recognize this prison that we build with our traumas?
Well, with children, I probably wouldn't explain it so much, but do something to allow them to express their feelings as they're happening. So if they're young enough, right, I probably wouldn't want to start using the words. I wouldn't put in words to the feelings. Yeah. I would say something like, oh, can you see feel how tight your jaw is right now? And just feel that tightness in your jaw, rather than saying, oh, you're angry, right? Because if we feel those feelings, they will just pass through. Yes. I don't know if you've seen a deer or something after it stopped being chased by a mountain lion or whatever, it will just shake everything off. And then it moves on with life, and it's let that go. Mm-hmm. So we want children to recognize that they can feel those feelings. If they're crying, just hold them as they cry. Don't try and get them to stop. Don't, have them do something else so they won't recognize that they're crying, but just allow those feelings out. Mm-hmm. But also you could learn the technique EFT. It's very easy to learn. You just tap on certain points in the body. I was on an airplane flight one time. Before we took off, there was a baby that was screaming, and it screamed the whole way up, taking off until we got to altitude, and people were not happy in the cabin, you could tell. So once we got up to altitude, I asked the father if he would swap places with me. He was a few rows away. And then I asked the mother if it was okay if I tapped on her baby as he was screaming. And she let me, and I just tapped gently on the points, the ends of meridian points on him as he was screaming. And after 2 or 3 rounds, he just fell asleep in his mother's arms.
Oh, I love that. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, and some of the people in the cabin clapped because they were so grateful, right? Thankful.
They could actually have
the
a quiet plane ride.
Yes. So it does. It just lets that tension out of the body quickly.
Yes.
So I used to do it with my son when he had nightmares. I would just gently tap on him. Didn't need to say any words, just tapped on the places on his body. And then he would say, okay, Mom, I'm ready now. I can go back to sleep. And then he would.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? And see, I love that. That makes me excited because you're not in the plane thinking, oh, it's none of my business. Let me stay out of it. You connected with a child and mom and recognized that maybe there's something I could do. And to lend a hand. To create a peaceful, for lack of a better word, ride. And for everyone, because most people would have been like, listen, it's none of my business. I don't want this mother getting mad at me and say I should mind my business and stay out of it. You just said...
It took some courage to do it. But I was very grateful too, so...
Yes, because guess what? It's a gift to tap into that and know that it has freed you. So why not? Why not have everybody else access this? Imagine how much more easier we will be able to relate to one another and know that our fears that we keep holding on to can actually be worked out in a place where, I don't need to fear that at all. It's okay. And I can offer help.
All the current divisions, right? All the current divisions in society, everything that's going on, right? We're annoyed with the other side. Whatever side we're on any issue, there are emotions inside of us.
Yes, we are very.
We work with those emotions and we let them go and we come to peace ourselves, then I believe we can all come together.
Yes, I agree.
There's no reason. Yeah.
I completely agree because once we understand about relating to each other and recognizing that we are each other's brothers and sisters, there is no separation between us. We are one. Once we recognize this, I'm telling you, there's something powerful that happens. You don't see people as a threat anymore. You really see them and be like, oh, okay, it's going to take a while. Yeah, I know you're believing all this separation you're creating and all this division you're creating and all this polarization you're believing in. But, ooh, my brother, my sister, I still love you. Because I can't wait for you to realize, what was I doing? Look at what is happening right now. And if we can just reach out to one another and not say it's none of my business. It is our business. We are brothers and sisters. We are family. And each person affects the environment, affects the energy we are bringing in. And one by one, we can learn this tapping. We can learn this response to allow things to fall off and be that whole being and understand that you are whole. But it's the lies that you created based on what you've experienced to keep you feeling you're broken. And it's just pieces.
So what I've recognized now that I can put my awareness inside my body, that the light is already there. It's just the tension, right? The tension is the darkness. And that's all we need to find. We just need to find those wounds, find the negative, find the tension and the stress and let that go.
Yes.
And underneath, it is already light, right? We are perfect, pure beings.
Yes.
All the baggage that we've been carrying around.
Yes. Yes. And that's what gets me excited, because as a pure being, that is where the truth lies. Because once you understand that, access to all the healing is available. And the one that's suited for you to work with is what makes the difference. Because some people, theirs is, okay, I'll go in the woods and sit there and meditate. And they said, you know what? Everything is actually melting away. For some, they may walk elsewhere and say, well, I did this meditation for a while and I melted away, but the moment I walked right back into the same place that reinforced the fears that I have, I realized that I'm struggling to hold on. But imagine going from that and then coming back and hearing and learning about the tapping, hearing about EFT.
To me, the difference with EFT is the physical component, that we're actually tapping on the physical body, which is allowing that stuck energy to dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's what I felt about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something that was more permanent.
Yes.
So to me, this was a permanent shift, right?
Yes.
We might, the same memory might come up. I had to work on my mother's death more than once because, as I said, it opens up the subconscious mind. So more details of the event will come to mind. And then that's the next layer to release.
Yes.
And then, more and more until it's finally gone. And then it just becomes a story.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I believe, that you can create a routine to begin to work on, because once you're aware of this technique and learn it and begin to use it, you can create a routine to allow you to make this a daily practice. Because stuff that will be coming to check in on you and say, are you sure? Are you really sure? Well, let me try. Because an ego has a way of wanting you to stay where you were.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll keep coming and say, nah, let me just check. You sure? How about this? Let's see how you react. I bet you can't do this one. I bet you can't get rid of this one, or you can't tap this one away. And it comes. So tell me, those moments, especially, do you have a routine where you are able to recognize when ego is saying, come on, let me give you this and see how this goes?
That's just the next level. So catching those moments.
Yes.
To begin with, I did have a routine, and I would try and catch myself during the day. And to me, that was the hardest part, is not getting caught up in the emotions, but recognizing I am becoming emotional. And then I would tap. But I would do an hour to an hour and a half each night. And, we've got technology now that we didn't have quite so much 10, 15 years ago. So I will, more recently, I would set my timer for 5, 10, 15 minutes and tap for that length of time. But now I've got to the point that I know when I've got something to work on, and I'm going inside and feeling that tension and releasing it many, many times throughout the day. It gets to the point where you recognize that it feels so good to release tension, especially when you can feel it in your physical body.
Yes.
And it will dissipate if you focus on it. We hear in society a lot, don't focus on it, right? Don't focus on the pain, put a bandage on it, don't focus on the headache. But in my experience, it's calling for attention.
Yes.
It's calling for attention, right? That word, attention.
Yes.
When you give it attention, when you hold your focused awareness on it, that's when it will dissipate. And so we do want to give it attention. We just don't want to to sit in it, right? We don't want to re-traumatize ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
if, as we're cleaning it out, if we're tapping or doing something like that,
Mm-hmm.
then we're actually releasing it from the body. And that's what we want to do. We want to give it attention so that it will release from the body.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a great way of doing it. I do have a group. I meet once a week with some people, and we tap for 8-minute intervals. We tap for 8 minutes on our own things. Then we share what we tapped on. We tap another 8 minutes, and we just do it for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Bam, 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 bam. So it's focused time on working through things that have happened that week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. So your group, how can our audience find the group if they want to join that group? And is it open for other people to join?
It's maybe, if someone contacted me, they have to know how to do EFT.
Okay.
And you can contact me on my webpage, annhince.com, or through my public Facebook page,
Okay.
which is Ann Hince Wisdom. And I love interacting with people on there. I love posting things on my Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
I try and explain some of the quotes that are up there these days
Mm-hmm.
through my understanding,
Mm-hmm.
so that people can understand it at a deeper level.
Good. And then my other question is, I'm very curious. I'm so excited, and especially if I could recommend this to clients that are struggling with trauma, and I could say, hey, I think you should look into this too. Talk therapy is great, of course, because it allows you to have access to language. Access to language is very important, but sometimes you need to be proactive by doing something. In the past, actually even presently, some people recommend doing EMDR, and is the eye movement rapid resensitization, desensitizing, to allow people to get access to doing something physical by bringing their trauma or the situation into their mind's eye and allow the eye to move back and forth. It's almost like it's searching for something, and doing so, it triggers the brain, especially the neurons, to start accessing information that will allow them to seek solutions. That's great. And usually something physical, they have to be upright and do that. But I think tapping or EFT has a whole new different way of doing that physical thing, because now you've been given points, access points in your body to communicate with the muscle, with where the energy is being held, and allow the release to happen.
Yes, I believe it's similar.
And I'm excited.
To EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But EMDR, you need to pay to go to a practitioner.
Yes, because people have to be
Right,
trained for that. I'm not trained.
Yeah.
I'm not a trained EMDR technician,
I've never
and I don't do
experienced,
that.
but I've heard it is very good, and it's
Yes.
very similar.
Yes.
The thing with EFT is you can learn it yourself, and you can do it yourself
Mm-hmm.
as often as you want to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm excited about, because it's another outlet, it's another avenue, but also it's even more productive, because our hands, these hands, I can't say enough about our hands, because it does so much. It does so much. And then those who don't even have hands have their feet. They can still do tapping. They can still access that. And once they learn this, so my thing is, where can our audience to say, I want to know how to do that. Where can they go to learn it? Who do they go to? Is there a community in every community that they can go to? Is there one in every state, in every country? What is this? I'm looking at it from my audience point of view, that they want to know, because if this is available, why not?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why not?
So let me tell you something. So there were thousands and thousands and thousands of videos online about EFT.
Okay.
It was given away by the developer, Gary Craig. It was given away for free.
Yes.
So many people started using it. So a lot of people have changed it along the way. And one of the key things to be aware of these days is a lot of people have moved more towards the positive. You know, we hear that in society. You got to be positive. But when you're being positive, you're actually suppressing the actual negative thought.
Yes.
And that's the power of EFT, is working with the negative. So I do have one EFT demo on my YouTube channel. I also have a video about the power in our hands, just so you know.
So I was talking about the hands. You're like, what is she doing? I was going to talk about this.
Yeah, incredible. But I also recommend Gary Craig's videos, and there's a link to his videos from my video on my YouTube channel. So the other thing I wanted to say about that is that it doesn't have to be tapping about trauma, because even the words we use have memories inside of us, right? The word hospital has feelings inside of us that we are bringing up when we're saying that word, even though we don't realize it.
Yes.
Right. So it's subconscious, but we can still tap on all sorts of words. Right. I spent about 15 minutes tapping on the word love. So I don't use that word a lot in my vocabulary, because I recognize, to me, that word love brought up everything from my mother, which didn't really feel loving. So the words we use are really powerful too, and we can tap out those words. Imagine tapping out the word COVID. Like just tapping on that word alone, right? And releasing the stress and tension.
Yes, there's a lot of stress and tension associated with that, with the word, this particular word. And when you bring it up, and then, you know what? I'll add another word, 2020. You bring up 2020 in North America, it's like, even I'm getting it. Like, it goes like, oh, what a year. And then 2021 came, and it's like, oh, Lord, what happened? Our world is like, everybody's good. So, yes, you say COVID, you said 2020, you said 2021, and everybody's just like, they're lost.
That's where we need to tap. Because we want to change our future to be better, right? So if we tap out and become peaceful right now, then we're attracting peace into our future.
Yes. Oh, say that again, please. I love that.
Yeah, I believe we are a signal. We are each a signal. And however we're feeling right now, or however we're feeling, from the past, that's our signal, and we're attracting it back to our future.
Yes.
So if we can come to peace, that's our signal, and we're attracting then peace into our future.
Wow. This is beautiful. And then also, now if when people can watch your video on your website again, is Ann Wisdom. Is it
AnnHince.com is my website.
Okay. ANNINCE.
HINCE.
Sorry. HINCE.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a disclaimer. I had this is not, I don't discuss these things because I feel like this platform or this podcast is not about me. Honestly, it's not. It's about what my brothers and sisters need and learn and understand about our world, and for the freedom that's available for all of us. Like, you see how I wrote your name right, and then I spelled it wrong. So I have, I'll say I had a concussion with an automobile accident I had in 2019, October. And it's caused, I was diagnosed with a concussion with double vision and all of that, and light insensitivity. So when the eyes, that's why my glasses looks like sunglasses because it was done like that. So I'll write things down, and then I'll write it down the right way, and then say the wrong thing. So that's what just happened. And then I spelled your name right, but then I spelled it wrong, and it's like, no. So with a disclaimer,
so if you were going to work through something like that with EFT, so you would talk through, you tap through the whole memory and everything that has happened since related to it, and what's going on now. You tap through it again and again and again until it opens up all that memory and that trauma, and then let it go.
That's what yes. And I might just hit you up for one of those a session because, yeah. And that's the thing. I always tell people, therapists are not experts. Therapists are not, we don't cure anything. And at least that's what I believe. What we do, and I strongly believe this, we are a guide. Someone is walking through the prison walls, or walking in darkness, or in the valley. Meanwhile, I just entered the valley with you, with 1 foot in the valley. And the fact of the matter is, I just came to join you in the valley with 1 foot. So that means I have access to, that's cute. No, that's okay. I think it's cute. I love dogs.
I can mute myself for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So then with that, the therapist or the counselor or the coach, that's what I believe, has 1 foot outside the valley, or in the out, knows where the way out of the valley. Okay? And so they just know where the door is, or where the light is. In the darkness, as you circle around, they know, oh yeah, we know because how did you get in here? Okay. Let me show you. Let me just show you. As a guide. That's all. And so, for that reason, and I always say, if you have a therapist and that therapist doesn't have a therapist, I'll be very worried. Or doesn't have somewhere they can go to process their own stuff. Because if you're not able to work on yourself and deal with your own stuff, how can you begin to avail yourself fully to what a client needs when they come to you? So yes, I have no shame in it. I am willing to learn this. I am willing to come and say, teach me tapping. And so that I can work on myself, not about other people, but work on myself where, hey, if a client needs it, I might say, okay, try this, or here's someone you can go to, or look at this video and learn this for yourself. So it's not like something that we'll be saying, oh, well, money needs to be exchanged. I love these dogs. They want to be heard. They want to be heard. They want to tap into this thing too. And I say, hey, we're here too. We have something to say. So my question too is, when they go to the video, are they open to understanding or learning more of this and practicing on themselves? Or is there, how many days do they have to do this to learn this? Is there, explain it to me, please.
Oh, you can learn it in 5 to 10 minutes. I can teach it to someone in 5 minutes. It's very easy to learn. Yes, very easy to learn.
5 to 10 minutes.
The hardest part is people get confused about the words to use. But all we're doing with the words is we're using the words to bring up the emotions in our body. Mm-hmm. So that's all we're doing. We want to keep those emotions living in our body so that we can tap them out.
So I'm going to start doing this.
So the first point is, well, there's one point on the karate chop point of the hands, and we just do an opening phrase there. So even though my dad shouted at me, that's my truth in this moment, and it's okay that I think that.
Okay.
So that's on the karate chop point. Then there's 9 points, the crown points on the top of the head.
Yes.
And there we just say, we shorten it, so I might say, my dad shouted at me. Then the beginning of the eyebrow, my dad shouted at me. And we're tapping firm enough that we're making a difference, but we're not hurting ourselves.
Yes.
And then the bone on the edge of the eye, my dad shouted at me. And then the bone under the eye, my dad shouted at me. Then under the nose, my dad shouted at me.
Mm-hmm.
The chin, my dad shouted at me.
Mm-hmm.
The collarbone point, my dad shouted at me. And then under the arm, where the bra strap goes across, if you have one, my under the armpit.
Okay, here, yes.
My dad shouted at me, and then you take a deep breath, you let it go, and that's 1 round of EFT. So when I was tapping on that child, I was just tapping on those points. I did it 2 or 3 times, and as he fell asleep.
Wow.
So easy to learn. The words are just to bring the emotion to the body.
Okay.
But you can just tap on one word. If there's one person, if maybe it's mom or dad, you can just tap using that, and your subconscious mind is bringing up all those memories around mom or dad or whatever word it is you're using. It's very easy.
Oh my goodness. I could talk to you forever and learn so much. I feel, honestly, doing that one brought me joy. It brought me joy because whilst we were doing it, and my word I was thinking about was I was lost. I used to be, being a child that tried to learn love at a very early age and understanding, because I was one of those weird kids. I was very odd because I think my journey into all this started at, I think, 13, when I recognized that love was not being, the way I perceived it was not being introduced to me. It was a lot of pain being given. And out of the, like you said, you wanted to be free. You wanted to be free of this pain, of constant, the constant berating of everything around you. I wanted to feel the love. I wanted to have it. I wanted to have it. And then when I didn't receive it the way I wanted it, at least from the people around me, and they met with cruelty, and now I understand being grown and recognizing that they didn't know how, and they didn't have the information at hand as to how to even show love. So, and I always say, people, how could someone give love if they don't have love? But the fact of the matter is, the love is already in there. They just didn't know they had it. That's the thing. They just didn't know they had it to tap into it and begin to love thyself and then love everybody. And when
they also might have thought that was love.
Exactly.
Because that's what they experienced.
Exactly. Because when they were being cruel, they thought, I'm teaching you how to, I'm loving you, but that's why I'm doing that. Because I need to teach you that life is not easy. They're imparting love and wisdom. And I didn't get it at that time. So at the time, being a 13-year-old, young girl, I was like, okay, I know how it feels not to get what I felt I needed. And because I'm not receiving that, at the time, the information I had, I decided that I'm going to just not be like those people. And I didn't want other kids, younger kids, to see me as them. That was number one, which was, now I look at it, it was a judgment I made. And then number two, I was like, every child that I see younger than me, I will give them the attention and the love that I wish I had. And the love that I wish, how I wanted to be treated. And I started focusing with children and the young ones. Oh, at least kids who were way younger than me. I would just zero in on them, get on the floor, talk to them, have fun with them, and just play and just be happy with them. And the more I did that, I felt good about me. Instead of recognizing that I'm important. I have love. And I didn't know how, but I started feeling that. And then the older I got, I started recognizing I'm just going to treat everybody that way. Because I know how it felt to be ignored like that. I know how it felt to be rejected like that. I know how it felt to be hurt like that. And I choose not to be someone who would do that to other people. So for that reason, I will be love. I will present myself as that and allow that to flow through me. So then when I went around everybody, I had that clear mind that I'm just going to be present in love. And over time, it taught me that I already had that in me all along. I just didn't know how it was. But the goal is to make sure that our world, our brothers and sisters, recognize this in themselves. And with this tapping, it allows people to have access to something simple but powerful that frees them. That frees them, that they can love themselves enough to take the time to consider, hey, maybe I could do something. Even though everything in their mind and their meme that has taught them, based on all the memes that they've learned from their parents, the environment, the society, and everything, that meme is contradictory, completely contradictory to what tapping can do. But the mere fact that they say, maybe let me try this.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have to lose? You've been struggling anyway. And the other thing I say is that you've been suffering anyways. You've been struggling anyways. And what you're dealing with is hard anyways. So not doing anything and relating and replaying the stuff in your head over and over and over is hard. And the mindset, that switch to choose something else and try tapping. Yes, your thinking is hard. It's going to be hard. Okay, what you're doing is hard anyway, so why don't you want to try another hard? But the difference is this one might give you a better outcome. This one might give you less pain, less fear. Why not? Because either way, you know what? It's going to be hard because you're thinking, well, I don't know how this is. This one I know. I know how to deal with this pain. I know how to deal with this trauma. I know how to do this. Yeah, you do. And the fear and the hard that you're thinking is that I don't know how that's going to turn out. Yeah, but at least try the hard that you might get something out of. And you know what? You try it and it doesn't work for you. You can go back to the hard that you know. But why not try? Because choose your hard. There's always going to be two different hards. But I can assure you, the hard that you've been dealing with, chances are there could be a different way of dealing with this if you decide to choose something different. And it's just being open. Just be open for the healing. Just be open to the freedom that might give you something a little better than what you're dealing with. Because guess what? What did they say? Doing something the same way over and over and over and expecting to get a different result is, and I'm not trying to cuss anybody, it's called insanity. That is truly the definition of insanity. So why not try something a little different? You might get a different result. So choose to start looking at something to create a peaceful life for you. That's just my 2 cents in it. Try tapping because it'll give you a new sense of freedom, a new sense of peace, a new sense of understanding of what you've been dealing with, and free that little girl, that little boy that took on that burden and stored it inside because he or she didn't know what to do at the moment when it happened. Now you're older physically, but allow that little girl and that little boy freedom. Learn something different. And I'm excited for this to become more and more popular. I want more people to learn this, grow with it, and I want the community of individuals that do this to grow. And I think I'm going to become one of them. I want to learn this so badly, and I want to make sure I'm doing this and on myself and on my nieces, my nephews, my child, everyone, because I want everyone to know this. I do. I do. I'm excited because now, of course, I know I get excited about everything, but this is a little different because it's a whole new world for me to learn something like this. And like I said, I don't know everything, and I'm open to learning everything that there is to learn. And I'm open because I'm available for the learning that the universe will give me and teach me and participate in this universal song. So my last question is this. Knowing what you know now, and you have to give an advice or a wisdom or impart knowledge, whichever way you may feel, you have to impart that to your younger self, either 20, 21, younger self. What advice would that be?
I would want her to know that emotions are just stuck energy and that they will release, that I don't have to hold on to them. But I have a second thing that I would like to tell my younger, early teen self.
Yes.
And that is not to wear, this is really weird to say, not to wear tight clothes. Because I have recognized that it is the connective tissue that holds the tension. So when we're wearing tight belts, it's compressing that connective tissue. I believe that's where our soul resides.
Ooh.
And the bra straps that go around around our chest and over our shoulders, it's compressing that connective tissue, and it's not easy to uncompress.
Yeah.
So I would like her to wear comfortable clothes.
Yes. I love that. Please say it again.
Wear comfortable clothes.
Yes.
Not tight ones.
You need to release.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I do work on, right? When I'm working on the inside, I'm releasing that tension, and it is so tight in there, in those areas, that I compress the connective tissue in those young years. So yeah, I wouldn't do that again.
I think it's definitely a great advice. Heck, I think even we have some adults that need to hear that. And we recognize how much that's contributing to the constant holding of, it is, the strange thing, it does create tension. It creates that tension. It's really not pretty.
Yeah, it does. And as you become aware at a deeper and deeper level, you feel that tension all the time. So definitely worthwhile wearing, comfortable clothes.
Wow. Thank you so much, sister. We have come to a place where we can always share these beautiful life lessons and realizations, and saying, you mean this was there all along and I was suffering? This was there all along and I couldn't figure out what to do? This was here all along. Why did it take me so long? But thank goodness, now is the time to learn. Allow ourselves to grow and be part of this beautiful world and actually go through it and recognize that we have a purpose and something greater. There's no need to waste our time, our energy on our traumas or our emotions, and just be the being that we're meant to be. And like I said, any final words?
Start to become aware of when you're emotional. Catch that. And then it will get easier. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here. And please go ahead and send me the information as to how our audience can reach you. So if somebody contacts me and say, "Hey, I want to learn more. I need to know. How can I talk to get on her page group, her Facebook group, whatever." I'll be like, okay.
I also have the book I wrote. I didn't mention that. I did write down my whole story.
Tell us
in my book.
Where can we get the book?
It's called A Pathway to Insight, and it's available on Amazon, or you can ask your local bookstore to order it. But it goes through all the different steps that I went through. It talks about EFT in detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And book, okay. EFT in detail. And it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
Great. I will make sure that I pass that on, and I will reach out and get that book for myself, because I have a feeling I'm going to get it as gifts for family and friends and clients. And so I better have that. It's important to have that in my library to learn, because, hey, we got to learn everything we can and be open to that learning and grow. Thank you so much for coming, and please come back again. I will be checking in with you and see, we could talk more, because people have asked more for information, and we can do more, because I'm excited to learn more. And then I wish you the best, and now a taller person.
I'll be taller next time.
Yes. I can't get over that. Well, thank you, and have a great rest of your Sunday, and enjoy the dogs. How many dogs do you have?
2. And one's a howler.
Oh.
It was a good thing. It was a good thing I put myself on mute, believe me.
The dog wanted to make its appearance and say, "Hey, I got something to say." We've watched her grow. And you know what? As some say, I love dogs because they have an amazing way of connecting with the environment and the energy you have. And they just, honestly, I think they have an ability to tap in and play that emotion out for you. And then you're like, what's he doing that? And now, anytime people are saying that and their dog is around, I was like, I wonder, what thoughts are you holding in your head? What are you feeling? And they're like, I'm like, okay. Let me tell you, your dog will speak the language of what you're doing and show you. If you're not responding to it, it's going to show you. So I love dogs because they're able to connect that way and then communicate. And and their way of communicating is so pure and so true. There's no pretending. So enjoy them, and have an amazing rest of your Sunday. And please do come back again.
Thank you. Hope you enjoy your Sunday too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. You've heard from our guest, Ann Hince. Her last name is spelled Hince. So, and her first name is, of course, is Ann. And her book is called A Pathway to Insight. Look for that book. It's on Amazon. I'm going to get it and make sure that I have it in my library. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. I appreciate you all for joining me and then sticking around with me to learn more and then listen in on this. Have an amazing week. Those who want to contact me and get more information on Ann's videos on YouTube, please do so. My email address is loveforgivelive@gmail.com. Now, this is how the love is spelled. It's spelled LUV as in Victor, the number 4, give, GIVE, live, live@gmail.com. Once again, my name is Sroda Aglago. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live. Love you all, and have an amazing week. Good evening, good night, good morning, and those who are already in Monday, because I know globally people may be in a different time zone. Those who have started their Monday morning, good morning to those who are now waking up to start their week. Thank you again. Bye-bye.